No. So, good evening, everyone. We would be talking about the psychological foundations of education. So, naalala ko yung question. Hopefully, almost pareha ni sa ginhimo nyo, ha? Hopefully. So, let's start with Ivan Pavlov. As we all know, is the father of what? The classical conditioning. He also stated that the key of learning in early life is to train what you want them to become. So, the SR theory, hopefully nakapag-research na kayo nito. So, uh, Ivan Pavlov believed that kung ano yung dapat yung gustong paglaki, dapat natitrain na kayo. So, basically, yan yung ano niya. Next is we have Edward Thorndike. Review lang ito ha. Hopefully, ito yung mga hopefully nasa pinasa nyo to. So, he championed on the connectionism theory that was given, and he proposed that the three laws of learning: the law of readiness, exercise, effect, and he also believed in the specific stimulus has every specific stimulus has a specific what response. Next is Robert Gagne. He proposed the hierarchical learning theory. Behavior is based on prerequisite conditions, and also introduced the tasking and the formulation of objectives. So sa mga lesson plan natin, kung sino yung may kasalanan, bakit tayo nagkakaroon ng ng siya yung may kasalanan, bakit doon sa ninyo sa mga lesson plan na ginagawa, merong objectives. Si Robert Gagne ang nag-formulate po niyan. Next, we have John Piaget, the very famous John Piaget. He developed the theory of the cognitive development. Sabi niya nga niya, di ba, we have the different stages. Number one is the sensory motor stage, the pre-operational stage, the concrete operation, and the formal operation. And he also stated that there are different keys of learning: the assimilation, accommodation, and equilibrium. Please research on these things, ha. Ay, no, hindi na pala. Kasi alam niyo naman ito, di ba? What I'm doing is just a review of everything that you have learned already. Next, we have Lev Vygotsky. The cultural transmission and development, that learning precedes development. He also believes that people needs to learn before he could develop anything. And the very famous socio-cultural development theory. He believes that pedagogy creates learning process that leads to development. And remember that the child is an active agent of his or her educational process. He believes that in order for a child to learn very well, kailangan gawan niya talaga ito ng paraan, kasi if the child is not an active agent, hindi po hindi po wala pong learning na mangyayari. So that's why uh, ito rin siya mga basis ng mga idealists ngayon nga dapat the teacher should just be a facilitator. Dapat yung mga bata meron siyang uh, task na pine-perform, kasi pag hindi na perform yung task, that means that the child is not learning. Next is the very famous the very famous the very famous the very famous Howard Gardner. Ano ba yung sinasabi ni Howard Gardner? Teka lang, i-mute ko si Miss Ford Clara kay maingay. Miss Ford Clara, pakimute ang sarili mo. Okay. So we have the very famous Howard Gardner, who is the proponent of the multiple intelligence. And he also believed that humans have different levels of way of processing information. And this they are what independent of each other. Ano ang ibig sabihin nito? Every human person is a unique individual. And meron na tayong the eight intelligences. Sabi nga nila ngayon, nine na ata ito. So please update your intelligences. Next, si Daniel Goleman. Emotion contains the power of affect action. He is the father or the promoter of emotional quotient. Then we have the humanistic psychology, the Gestalt theory. He explained that learning is what? A wholeness. Human beings that respond to the symbiotic organization and patterns. Ito siya ha, paki-review ito. Learning is a complex and abstract. So as you can see, ano yung makikita nyo sa picture? Ano makikita nyo sa picture? Dalawa yan. It's either you see the person or you see the vase. Diba? So, learners analyze the problem and discriminate the non-essential and the essential data, and they perceive the relationship. Next, learners will receive something in relation to the whole and how they perceive in relation to their previous experiences. Hello? Okay. Next, we have the Abraham Maslow. Miss Buskas, Leda, pakimute. Then, Abraham Maslow is the very famous ngayon kasi the theory of self-actualization. Marami ito siyang theory at nag-improve na ito. So please look into his different theory ha. Then we have Carl Rogers, the non-directive and therapeutic learning. Ito naman siya, ito siya naniniwala na children should be what? Have established counseling procedures and method to facilitate their learning. And he also believes that children shall influence their learning and behavior in class. So he believed that curriculum is concerned with the process, not the product, personal needs, not the subject matter, but the psychological meaning, not the cognitive scores. He is more on the emotional side of the theory. So social foundations. Please remember that society as a source of change, school is an agent of change, and knowledge as an agent of change. Please remember that this picture is what we call interrelated po ito. They could not function as one, but they function as a whole. So let's consider John Dewey. Uh, two fundamental elements, they have the schools and the society. Sabi nga nila, it takes a whole community to educate a child. So that's why John Dewey believes that it's not just the school who is educating the child, not just the curriculum, but also the civil society in which the child interacts. Ito siya, si Alvin Toffler. He's a very famous author. He wrote the book, The Future Shock. He believed that knowledge should prepare the students for the future. Tanong, na-prepare ba tayo sa future? He suggests that in the future, parents must be the what? The resource to teach prescribed curriculum from home as a result of technology, not in spite of. So, bale, very optimistic na to. Very future-oriented na si Alvin Toffler. He reminded us that everyone would go back to homeschooling. So as you can see, nasa homeschooling na tayo. If we're so that student work creative collaborative, and it should be what independent of their age. He believe that uh, wala po sa edad yung pagiging learner. It really depends on the person, and the person should be what independent learner. That's why kung babasa niyo yung mga libro niya, marami siyang sinasabi doon na dapat ganito, ganito, individualism. Although people would be working collaboratively, but he always makes sure that individualism is practiced. And he believed that as a person, independently you could work. Kasi hindi siya naniniwala na human interaction kasi doon sa mga book niya, human interaction daw, sabi niya, in the future would be very, yes, human interaction is possible, but the scarcity of face-to-face interaction is very evident. So kaya nga ano nangyari ngayon, yes, we could interact, but face-to-face, it's very, ano na, impossible na minsan. So, thank you. Thank you everyone for listening.